Welcome to Healing Echoes. Today we have with us Jennifer Day. Jennifer is an empowering emotional weight of armor coach, a consultant, author, and speaker. She specializes in working with emotionally resistant clients to find self-love, clarity, boundaries, and power aimed at releasing their emotional and physical excess armor weighing them down. Jennifer has overcome personal challenges of self-abandonment, sugar addictive behavior, emotionally abusive relationships, corporate burnout, neuroendocrine, cancer surgery, and managing her neurodivergent conditions, anxiety, ADHD, binge eating, and body dysmorphia tendencies. After releasing 125 pounds, she realized the importance of addressing underlying issues, including childhood trauma, to achieve lasting success. She approaches her work with expertise, authenticity, and unwavering integrity. She facilitates awareness for clients to experience transformative change and growth, not fix them. Through the process, clients understand that anxiety, depression, struggle with indecision and people-pleasing, and even extra weight can be released. Everyone is meant to thrive, not just survive your way through life. And it's achievable with her FAB approach. FAB standing for fierce, authentic, and badass. Hey, Jennifer.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today. I loved your intro too. I read through it about 30 minutes before recording, and I was like, I love this.
I actually I had a longer bio, and I am doing a virtual summit in June for a self-love event, and they were like 150 words or less, and I was like, it took me a hot minute to kind of condense it, but I like when it came up.
Yeah, I like it. So tell us a little bit more about you, both personally and professionally, a little bit more in depth than what is in your bio. Let's start there.
Well, I'm originally from New England, and I am a mom. I am a grandma, but we don't ever say that word. I thought I was too young for that stuff when I was in my early 40s, so we call me Gigi. And my family is still up in Connecticut. I am down here in Florida for 7 years now. I'm also a fur baby mama, so my two hopefully will behave out in the living room. They've got music and the shades drawn so that they don't bark at everything that walks by the house. I am a member of the St. Pete Girl Boss and several other national women-owned business groups.
Yeah.
And I've really had a lot of growth and transformation, probably, I want to say over the last 2 years, 2.5 years, but personally for my business, last 8 months, like really kind of getting more about who I am and what I want to do, how I want to help others is really kind of coming into clarity now. And I think that happens as you start talking to people and you're like, oh, but I like this. And then I like this.
Yeah.
And then you kind of niche down, right? So I really have had a number of struggles, and not that we don't all have struggles, and we have them at various levels and at various times in our life. But the one thing that I realized over the course of time is a funny little thing called we're the common denominator. And so when you are understanding what portion of the choices that you make play into what it is that's happening, um, it kind of gives you a little bit of a different perspective. And then, surviving cancer, I mean, I still have a tumor, but the one that was the main blockage, I had an 85% blockage in my main airway. That was removed in 2021, in February of 2021. And it gave me a perspective of like, oh crap, life is way shorter than you expected. And what are you doing? Like worried about this, that, and the other. And I don't know about you, but I still have those days where I'm like, why the heck am I so worried about this? It's not that big a deal in the scheme of things, like
Definitely.
grain of sand versus the ocean
Oh,
concept.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, in the moment, things can seem so big, but I definitely have those moments, usually after like a day of being wrapped up in things, and then I'd be like, why do I even care about this? It's really
So
so small. Yeah.
our nervous systems automatically take us to that moment where your brain kind of just it can't access all your logical thinking, right? The prefrontal cortex just sort of shuts down, and that reptilian brain is like, hey, I want to protect you. What do
Yeah.
I need to do? And when that happens, that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn component of it kicks in, oftentimes you're like, I know better, and I'm still struggling with this. So the important part to remember is a lot of self-compassion, self-love, and
Yeah.
you don't know what you don't know until it comes up, right? So you might have thought you have moved past this particular emotion or this particular thing, and like an onion, it'll come up again at, like, hey, I had it down at like layer 5. Now we're at layer 15 in the onion, and I'm like, crap, it's up again. It's not
Yeah.
the same thing. It is resurfacing a different deep level
Mhm.
for you to work through this time. So it's like you did work through level 5, and now at 15, it's a different kind of intensity, and you get to,
Yeah.
it's a lot, but
It's the
it
biggest
is
thing
so
for me to
worth
learn.
being able to do that, and having space and people to support you is a great gift.
Yeah, that community is amazing. That was the biggest thing for me to learn with like a healing journey is that it continues. Like the onion layer is the perfect analogy because I thought you healed something and then you were done with it. No. That was
Yep.
like the biggest thing for me to learn. So now when things do resurface, I'm like, okay, this is how it's supposed to. It's slightly different this time, so it might be even a different lesson. It just looks the same. You thought you were done with it, you're not.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or you might need a reminder,
Yeah,
like what activates you might not activate me, and vice versa.
exactly.
But it could be very similar situations or almost the exact same situation. And it's literally just a matter of where you're at in your journey. But the
Mhm,
important thing to remember is that A, it's worth it because you're totally worth it.
mhm.
And B, when you say to someone that work is never done, you
Yeah,
either get,
yeah,
or you get, oh, really? Like never? And I'm
yeah,
thinking, there's a component of it. No,
yeah,
but it's on like learning something every single day about yourself only makes you better every single day.
yeah,
So, like, even the challenges are meant to be growth periods. Like, if you could stay curious and get kind of into why this is coming up, what is this here for? What is this
yeah,
teaching me? As opposed to like, oh, why has this happened to me again? The curiosity component of it allows you that
yeah.
that opening to learn. So
Yeah, I think it definitely depends on how you present it to people. And if you're talking to someone who's new to healing and you just say the sentence, healing never ends, that sounds daunting. It really needs the explanation to be like, well, there's more to it than that. Hold on, wait, don't freak out.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Um,
Absolutely.
so in your bio, you did like an amazing job on really showing some of the personal aspects as to why you do what you do. But I'd
Mhm.
love to dig, deeper into that, some of your own personal experiences that led you into what you do professionally now.
Well, I experienced a really bad level of corporate burnout. Like I'd done 27 years of construction experience, and doing management, assistant management, project coordination, administration. And while I loved that, I worked in a male dominated industry. And their degree or no degree, in all honesty, there is a lot of over proving yourself
Yeah.
as a woman in that industry. And I imagine you have that. I don't have the experience of it in another industry, but I imagine that any woman in a male dominated industry has those similar components. And as a kid, I went through a lot in terms of the way that I was able to be seen but not heard.
Mm,
Hunting and fishing was not a thing I got to do, but my brother got to do.
yeah.
So there was a lot of that kind of bias, if you will, in the family.
Hmm.
And it came from like, you know, the patriarchal side, not so much, like it was very like women, house, kitchen, children, men,
Yeah.
work, outdoors things kind of, and then lots of us experience that. So that's not
Yeah.
uncommon across the board. But the second you said I couldn't do some dude thing, I was like, well, let's go do some dude thing. I want to ride a
I'm gonna show you.
motorcycle. Let's go fishing, and as a single parent, I mean, I did a lot of that with my daughter. I was like, let's get on the Harley, baby. We're going somewhere. Or did you want to go fishing on the first day of opening day, kind of a thing. But um didn't realize that it came from childhood stuff. And in my case, a lot of it was around my weight. Like my mom was an only child and my grandfather really wanted a boy. Then I'm her firstborn. So again, he didn't really get his boy, right?
Yeah.
And while I feel like he might have been trying to do it in a nurturing fashion, but didn't have the wherewithal to be
Yeah.
equipped to do it in a loving fashion. So when I was a heavy kid, it was, hey, fat's ugly and boys aren't going to like that. And so it wasn't a nurturing kind of way. And of
Yeah.
course, kids don't know portion sizes. Kids don't know why you got to move your body, or what they've got going on for any of that stuff. Like you just don't know those things. So it ended up being where I just internalized a ton of stuff. So I tried to make up for the outward appearance, not looking like the other kids. Um, and I internalized a ton of stuff. And what my weight and my eating and things of that nature came to be along those, in that time frame of life. And it's been an ongoing struggle. So now, the losing of weight, like I lost a lot of weight and gained a lot of weight, lost it, a million times. I did a lot of the fads, I did a lot of the yo-yo stuff. I was scheduled for surgery at one point, and then it was canceled 2 weeks before the gastric bypass. I'd been through like the entire process of it. And I'm so thankful that I was, because I learned a lot more about me. And I think there are some people that when they go through that process, and if they need it, absolutely, I'm for it 100%. But you really got to learn underneath stuff to
Yeah.
make that successful. Like you can you can tell your body not to eat, but if you don't do the work, the mindset work and the mind body connection, often a lot of times people are not long-term successful. So I had a major breakup. A person that I was engaged to walked out 8 weeks before our wedding, and he absolutely he had a girlfriend on the East Coast that I knew nothing about, and a wife that was chasing him down
Wow.
for years for a divorce. And we were together for over 2 years. And like my whole life stopped for like 3 weeks. It just completely stopped because I was like, what the heck just happened? I can't trust myself.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can trust anybody else. And this person had a key to my house. And if I leave my house, will he show back up and try and, go through anything? So my nervous system completely froze. And once I started to de-thaw a little bit, I was like, okay, I need support, but I need support in a different way this time. And so I found a somatic mentor to work with me on what that meant in my nervous system and that whole freezing thing. And how does that relate to where I'm at in my life now? From like, where did it come from? And as soon as I started doing that work, I was like, oh my goodness, there's a lot to this. And I decided that actually was something that I had so much success in terms of like, once I realized what was going on internally, that I started working out again, but in a different fashion. And the weight started coming off, not necessarily maybe the first couple of pounds from stress, but after that, it was a much more consistent, like, hey, I'm really taking care of the inner stuff. And once I realized that, I was like, oh, this is the powerful thing. So when I wanted to be a WW leader way back when, and they were like, oh, you don't fit the bill money, like you didn't fit the pyramid that the FDA still uses. And a couple of other things that I wanted to do. I wanted to be a leader because I was like, oh, this is great. I want to help people. I realized that it didn't work out for those reasons because it was sort of like a surface level, and this really helped me get to underneath.
Yeah. really showing that it's all connected. I think that's my favorite thing about what you do and really how you talk about it, because you make it so clear from your own firsthand account, but even just when you're talking about how you help other people, you really make it clear that it has to be all of the things being worked on. You can't focus solely on the outside and expect to see this life-changing difference. And usually when you start from within, and then it starts domino affecting everything else.
Does. I mean, yes, you've got to, if you look at your body. So when I talk about body neutrality versus, I mean, because I still have like a form of body dysmorphia, which we'll talk about here.
Mhm.
But in terms of looking at my body as a neutral component, it's like looking at your car.
Yeah.
There are different makes, there are different models and shapes and colors and all kinds of stuff. But literally, if you put fuel in your car and you change the oil and you move it from place to,
Mhm.
it takes you from point A to point B, right? It does its thing. And if we could look at our bodies more from a standpoint of like, hey, this incredible machine that you own
Mhm.
allows you to do all these things. You've got your senses, you can move, you can. So if you fuel it and move it, so you're eating better and exercising, that is a huge component of it. But then working on your mind, working on how does that fit into your emotions, how does that, like, where do you feel those sensations, and are you holding onto them really tight, or can you like let them go? And it doesn't happen overnight. It's a process of
Yeah.
like melting, thawing that component of freeze, or I don't trust people, to kind of like, oh, I can trust myself a little bit. And it's little steps every time you do it. But those little steps become bigger and bigger and bigger, and you trust yourself more. Then you start noticing that you can do what it is that you need to do for you.
I love the neutral standpoint of looking at your body, because I think, not that there's anything wrong with like the self-love movement. I think it is a little overused or not truly understood, but one of the things that I think doesn't help is that they go from taking someone who doesn't just dislike themselves but hates themselves internally and physically, and it's like, here's how you love yourself. And it's very hard for people to jump from one extreme to the other. It's sometimes impossible. So I really love that you mentioned that, of just like, look at what it can do. Focus there first. Let's start here first. Take it out of the hate, take it into just facts. What does it do? What is it capable of? And then you can get there, because so many people are just pushing that, like, well, you don't hate yourself, you love yourself. It doesn't happen like that. It just doesn't.
No, I mean, and there is mindset work to happen, but like for me, I mean, I used to eat in my closet.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, kids don't understand the nutritional value in the foods that you're eating. So, I mean, I came from a mostly Polish background. I mean, I'm kind of a Heinz 57 mix, but on my mom's side, it was guamki, it was,
Yeah.
pierogi, it was that. And so there's a heavier foods, right? And so, and then of course, you ate everything on your plate,
Yeah.
whether you were full or not, whether
Yep.
you liked it or not, kind of a thing, which is not like an intuitive eating, like, hey, I'm hungry, I should probably have something, or I want to keep my metabolism going, so let's eat every 2.5 to 3 hours. It's not that kind of thing. When you're a child, it's whatever the environment you're in is.
Yeah.
And so lots of kids will develop an eating disorder or some sort of eating disorder tendency if they are never technically diagnosed, which I was not. Um, and you don't take care of that, or if you don't understand that something is different or can be different, you carry that with you into your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, beyond. Like, I don't know if you know, but there was actually evidence of eating disorders as far back as the Middle Ages.
Yeah. I believe that.
Starvation at various levels to achieve that societal look had been going on for a long time. And of course, at one point that curvy, vivacious
Mhm.
look was in. And I'm thinking, like, can I go back to those days? Like, I fit good there. Like,
Yeah, right.
yeah, that'd have been me all day. And then the ideal shape, it like kind of changed to a slimmer physique.
Mhm.
And regardless of the timelines, women have really not felt good for centuries. Now,
Yeah,
I'm not saying it doesn't happen to men too, because it does. Body
it does.
dysmorphia facts are kind of astonishing, but like it just lends itself to proving that, shame and guilt and judgment, um those things have really been passed down from generation to generation for a long time. It's not like, grandma was a little curvy, and so your mom was a little curvy, and now I'm a little curvy.
Yeah.
Yes, but it happened long before that kind of a
That was
thing.
a ways
And,
back.
so, and then of course, with the slimmer curve, there was the fitness craze for a while.
Yeah.
And so people thought, well, if they just worked out enough, they could eat whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
Or you just work out like crazy and yet not eat anything. But you're
Yeah.
still creating this cycle that does not work for anyone really, because there's a certain level of imbalance happening no matter what. And if you do any kind of research online, you'll see what body dysmorphia is about, and it doesn't affect just heavy people. Like that's such a perceived um concept that it's like, oh, heavy people experience this. Well, I mean, honestly, everybody experiences it, and it's a condition that where people perceive flaws about themselves in a physical appearance, but they might think they're ugly, which is kind of what I did. But it could just be an insignificant thing. It doesn't have to be this really big, like I mean, I was well over 300 pounds at one point. And there are days that I look in the mirror and I still see that, even though I'm not that.
Yeah.
Like that still happens, that is an ongoing process. It doesn't just happen because you lost a bunch of weight. It doesn't happen to somebody who, maybe have been thin their entire life and gained a couple of pounds when they had a baby.
Yeah.
You're supposed to. Your body needs to
Yeah.
fuel you and the one growing. Like,
Yeah.
but then you're like, oh well, I don't look the same in my bathing suit, or my favorite jeans don't fit the same anymore.
Yeah.
And there is a component to knowing that without it being like, I can never wear those again. I look
Right.
terrible in those. You know what? I shouldn't eat today, or any of those kinds of concepts, because it's not healthy. It's not
Yeah.
healthy for your body. It's not healthy for your
Okay.
mind. But what you see, the other person, that person looking in the mirror sees, is not necessarily what you see, what I see, what
Yeah.
someone else sees. And it does affect people of all ages, of all sizes, races. Both sexes experience it. They used to think it was more about vanity
Yeah.
and whatnot. And it causes so much stress and anxiety in our daily functions in life. Like, compulsive behaviors can become a surfacing issue. And then people experience depression. They can have, suicidal thoughts. Like, it can be something that is a rabbit hole that you could find yourself going down so
Oh
quickly,
yeah.
and without knowing that there are resources where there are help. Like, it's a visual perception in how the brain sees things, but it's not beauty related, although many people think of it in that way.
Yeah. Especially if it occurs in people that already have self-image issues. Because when it happens, they do internalize it as a beauty issue. And so I think that's how people are receiving it is, well, this is just a self-image issue. It's not.
No, actually, it has a lot more to do with core beliefs
Yeah.
of being unworthy, unlovable, somehow you're a failure, you're going to be rejected due to all these perceived flaws. And people oftentimes they feel ashamed, embarrassed, and they might withdraw from social activities. I know I did.
I did. Yeah.
In my younger years, I'd be like, oh, I can't go to this or I can't go to that. And it's common for people to like, oh, hey, do I look nice in the mirror? Kind of like
Yeah.
check or double check their appearance before they go for a big event or a job interview or something
Yeah.
like that. But this is a little bit more about like being obsessive with looking in the mirror, or ways that you could constantly improve your look, like cosmetic surgery. I mean, that's not a thing for everybody. And it's not something that people perceive, but in terms of like, oh, well, I'm just going to sign right up for that. But in their brain, they're thinking, I need this. I mean, I've lost a lot of weight and I have,
Yeah.
but the guns are in there. The guns are in there. It's just,
Yeah.
but if I spent my entire day worried about that, I
Mhm.
wouldn't function in any other
Yeah.
fashion. And, I mean, the signs and symptoms of it, besides that strong belief that you have a defect, thinking that others are really taking notice of you in such a negative way, like maybe my arms.
Mhm.
Um, Pretty sure nobody actually gives a damn whether I wear a tank top, a short sleeve shirt, a long
Yeah.
sleeve shirt. Like nobody really cares. But that doesn't mean that you don't have those days where you're like, oh, I don't
Yeah.
like this. Um, I think there's a level of constantly comparing that happens. Um, Social media just often opens the door for that
I was
so
just
much
gonna
now. Like when
say,
I was a kid, I
yeah.
got on the school bus to go home, and then whomever was making fun of me, putting gum in my hair, whatever nonsense was happening at that point, it ended because I got off the school bus, and then
Yeah.
I went to go do my chores, my homework, my whatever.
Yeah.
Now social media follows you 24/7. So like it doesn't end. If you are on social media, you could still
Mhm.
either see somebody harassing you
Yeah.
or just that behavior continuing with other people. And there's a place for it. There's a
Mhm.
place for social media, but
Yeah.
there's a place for do your life.
Yeah. Well, I think especially with social media, it really, because there is so much editing and fakeness to it, it really is just like, how do I want to say this? It Those perceived flaws that we have aren't just the flaws, like for me, are like stretch marks or the extra skin, which are things that are usually associated with larger people. Um, but it's not just that on social media. It's People have even come out and talked about how celebrities will minimize their pores and things like that. That's everybody. That's every body type. And so, as a society, we're walking around feeling self-conscious about our pores because social media has made it appear like that's not a normal, real thing. And it really does affect people, especially when you already have something like body dysmorphia. It makes it so
Yep.
much worse. I know it definitely
I
for
mean,
me when I struggled with it. I like had to stay off of social media to survive.
I get it. I mean, so face, nose, complexion, wrinkles, acne,
Yeah.
any other blemishes, those come across, but sometimes your hair being thinning or, baldness, skin or vein appearance, like for some people they have spider veins and they become very self-conscious. Um, Muscles, your muscle tone, your
Yeah.
your figure shape, but so one of the facts that I would love to share with you is roughly between 5 and 10 million people in the United States struggle with BDD, which is the body dysmorphia disorder. Now, being diagnosed,
Yeah.
you can go to somebody, treatment would include like a medication, SSRI, I think it is, and, a cognitive behavioral therapy. And basically, it's often a misdiagnosis of like social anxiety or OCD.
Hmm.
And you could have multiple things kind of happening at once. So, that might not help in any way, shape, or form. But um, it is equally distributed pretty much between men and women.
Wow.
Um, 2/3 of people have the onset of that before the age of 18.
Ouch.
And the average onset age is 16 to 17, but the most common age is 12 to 13. And so for me, I was about 11 when my grandfather used to give me those
Mm.
um, speeches. And I
Yeah.
want to say, as an adult now, it was his way of being motivating,
Mhm.
although it did not come across as that as a child. It came across as I'm not good enough the way that I am, the way that I am. I used to get a lot of, you're such a pretty girl if you'd only lose weight. Wait,
Yeah.
what the heck does that
The
mean? Does that mean I am
backhanded.
a pretty girl
Yeah.
or I'm not a pretty girl until I lose the weight? Like,
Yeah.
you're not clear here.
Yeah.
And without being able to really feel comfortable in your own body and who you are becoming, and I got in trouble for my mouth a lot as a kid. I never spoke up about that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but it would have been nice to have clarity. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean here?
Yeah. I mean, it was
And
like
I
it was like right at
I,
13 for me that it wasn't just the speeches about my appearance because I'd been getting that for a while. It was actual straight up comparison. My dad would compare me and my sister, where we had two very different body types. And so, like, yeah, it started very young for me too, right at 13. Yeah.
okay. Yeah. See, and I want, I am curious to see how many people respond from your audience,
Yeah.
because I'm almost certain that 75, if not more percent of people will say I had a similar experience, whether it was in my younger childhood,
Yeah.
during my teenage years, or maybe my early adult. I mean, I don't know about you, but every once in a while I still experience some nonsense as an adult.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm thinking like, really? You don't have anything else to worry about, right?
Every now
Okay.
and then. Yeah. Definitely.
Um, they're 13 to 15% of cosmetic surgery patients, 20% of rhinoplasty, 11% adult jaw correction, 15 to 13 of adult orthodontia because they don't like the way their teeth look,
Oh, wow.
and 9 to 11% of dermatology patients. So there are people that literally look for cosmetics
Yeah.
to help fix that. And these are all diagnoses that came from um, the American, hang on, I made my notes, Anxiety and Depression Association of America. So
Mm,
like I pulled the stats on
yeah.
purpose.
Wow.
Um, and over the time I've gone, I've avoided going places like, hey, I don't want to go to this event because I don't like how I look in a bathing suit.
Right.
Or I am nervous about taking a trip somewhere because I have to go ask for an extender belt to go on the seat on the plane.
Mhm.
Last year I actually, my significant another and I went to Universal,
Mhm.
and I was like, I don't know if I like roller coasters, like that feeling of like I can't control the thing, I
Yeah.
don't know. And then eventually I was like, you know what, and if I don't like it, I won't go again. Not only did I go and I liked it, I was like, holy crap, I fit in the seat. Woo!
That's
Like it,
funny. Yeah, I had the same experience actually this last year. That's awesome.
and I think, when we first kind of talked about doing this podcast,
Mhm.
you had mentioned that you've seen this in people that
Mhm.
um, who are thin, who
Mhm.
feel like they don't have any shape.
Yep.
They're flat, or they don't, that maybe they were heavier people, but they were shapely. And once they lost the weight,
Yeah.
their body changed so
Yeah.
much that they're experiencing a different level
Mhm.
of uncomfortable,
Yeah.
ness that comes with that. And, so it happens whether you've lost a lot of weight, you
Mhm.
haven't lost a lot of weight, you've been thin your whole life, but
Yeah.
you can still compare your
Yeah.
thighs to someone else's, even
Right.
if you're a size 4. Like,
Mhm.
people do that. And recently I was at an event in Nashville. It
Mhm.
was a business and personal development retreat, and a woman who maybe was size 2, maybe 4 at the max, like she was very heavy in her childhood, and she was,
Mhm.
kind of self-proclaimed as awkward.
Mhm.
She looked like a goddess in absolutely
Mhm.
everything she wore, but she literally had the same thought, like, I hate myself in every outfit. I don't like this outfit. I don't like this.
Yeah.
I don't like. And she was able to like nitpick all these
Nitpick at
things.
all.
So she had the same feelings, even though she, to my eye, she looked beautiful. So
Yeah.
it was definitely a testament to how it does affect everyone.
Mhm. That's
And a mentor of mine, she always tells me the message is in the message. So like, whatever you've got going on oftentimes is something that you can give the gift to somebody else. I mean, I caught myself coming out of the shower at this retreat, and looking in the mirror going, oh, I don't like this, and I don't like my stretch marks and the sag on the skin on my
yeah.
tummy. And then I was able to sort of like quickly turn it around and be like, hey, thank my body.
Yeah.
It birthed a beautiful baby who now has beautiful babies of her own. I am with somebody who loves every curve that I have and doesn't make a difference
Yeah.
about, any of that stuff. And there was a lot of comparison in the very beginning
Yeah.
because his previous partner was like bone thin.
Feel that.
And so I had to I had to really work through that, because he was like, I don't have a type. And I'm thinking like,
Are you sure? Awesome.
so you actually want to know what his type is?
Absolutely.
It's absolutely not so some people are like, oh, I really like tall or thin or petite, or he's all about eyes and he's all about hair.
Ooh.
and like a vibey connection.
Yeah.
So like longer hair, he kind of has a thing for a little bit longer hair because mine was very short, like yours for a while.
Yeah.
But eyes and vibe are really, really, really his big thing. And I
Wow.
thought, if people looked at it from that standpoint, like if
Yeah.
you just felt someone's energy, was like, yeah, I love this energy. And we do. As humans, we do. As girl bosses, we do. Like we recognize another woman who's like doing their thing out in the
Oh
world. We're
yeah.
like, heck yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
We're connected in some way. In fact, like you and I kind of connected like that. It was like, oh yeah, that energy it's so
Yeah.
familiar, it's comfortable, it's the same, and you can tell there's a level of healing happening, like all of
Yeah.
that. So if more people looked at it from that standpoint, but it took me a hot minute, not even gonna lie, a hot minute to be like, wait, what? My eyes? You're good with my eyes and
No,
my
yeah,
body?
same. I mean, my husband always has said that, like, obviously he has certain physical attributes that he likes more than others, but he doesn't really have a physical type. He very much is the vibe. But when we met, we were polyamorous, and the girlfriend that he had was like a size 2, very short, very petite, everything I'm not, basically. Even when we were engaged, like he's obviously committing to me. I still had moments where I was like, well, what if I'm too big? Like, it really is this like having to really work yourself out of that. He wasn't comparing me, I was comparing me. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Oh, 100%. Now, the one thing that I will tell you that's made this one successful that it hasn't over previous moments, and I imagine you're going to tell me the same thing with your husband, is being able to have a conversation and hold space for those moments where an insecurity might come up. Or why is it coming up? Like, what brought that happening? Like, did you see something? Did you see someone? Are you having a moment in that, that day, and kind of you just project that is
Yeah.
his thought process or his feelings? But having the ability to have that conversation, like that really in depth, like, hey, I'm having a moment.
Yeah. It makes a world of
And
difference.
yeah. And it will make or break a relationship in the ability to move forward, because ruptures happen in every relationship, right? They happen in friendships, they happen in family, they happen everywhere. Rupture will happen. It's in how do you repair that rupture that keeps something moving forward or not?
Yeah.
Because eventually, if you have enough ruptures,
Yeah.
it just kind of comes apart,
Yeah.
and then it's different entities doing different things, and you're like, oh, why are we doing any of this?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Make the world.
yeah, I mean, and releasing the 125 pounds that I have, it's changed some of how I view myself. And I'm honest, there are days where I'm just like, ugh, I don't like the way that looks, right? Or more importantly, I don't like the way that feels on me, right? Like,
Yeah.
when I travel, and I've been traveling, for the last 6 weeks. We were in Connecticut for a while. I was in Nashville. I came back. We were just in Texas last week. When I travel, my body does not necessarily like the change. And so like I don't get as much water in necessarily, or as much protein, or as much movement in. And when you change the components, your body might retain some water. It might retain, you might eat a little something extra indulgent because you're on vacation. And so your body's like, we're just going to hang on to this for a few days, and then you don't like the way you feel in something. But you know, I watched that professional photo shoot that I had done in Nashville. And some of those photos that came back were like, hot damn, that is me? Wait, what?
Yeah.
Look
Yeah.
Wait, and then it was kind of like, well, I mean, that's the body that day, and that's the same body today. It's just in
Mhm.
different clothes with maybe not so much fancy hair and makeup.
Yeah.
Wait, do I look like that all the time? Like,
And you're like,
and then
oh, okay.
you're like, yeah, put on a different body for Nashville, and then a different one when I came home to Florida. Like,
Same
so
body.
then there's a level of like you have to like kind of sit with that and be like, well, I
Mhm.
still have saggy skin, or I still have this, or I got to see me in a way that others
Mm,
got to see me. And
mhm.
I almost recommend, having it doesn't have to be like this fancy expensive like photo shoot, but like have somebody take some photos of you, like when you're out with your family or whatever, and you get to see, you're like, oh, that I was
Yeah.
having fun. My face is so lit up, any of those things.
Mhm.
And really get to realize in a way, because 90% of us who have some sort of body image issue are the
Mhm.
one taking the photos.
Yep.
We are not in them. We take the photos.
Yeah.
When you are, and I don't want to use the word forced because I don't think that's the right way to do it, but
Mhm.
when you are the person in the photos,
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of times you get to see an, a concept of you, a component of you
Mhm.
that you might think is in there, like, oh, hey, that smile's pretty good, or I have those, like that outfit. I think I look great in that outfit. I think I do, and then you see it and you're like, other people saw the same thing I did. So it's not just me in my head,
Yeah.
and you get that feedback because you get to see what other people see. And I think that makes so much difference
Mm,
in a level of self-confidence. Because if you think about it, the fat rights movement that happened in the 60s.
mhm.
I mean, it was like a body positivity, it was a social movement, it
Yeah.
was created in waves, it was kind of like a social self-acceptance thing. And it resurfaced again in like the 90s.
Mhm.
And it was for, the varying marginalized bodies, which you find everywhere. But it wasn't until like 2004 when Dove did that, like, love the skin you're in.
Yeah, I remember that.
Everybody's remembering that one, right? Well, self-confidence and beauty, it's really not found in a specific size or a specific look. It comes from the inside.
Yep.
So what they did in that commercial was it challenged you to how you look at yourself.
Mhm.
But when we challenged ourselves to look at the way we appear,
Mhm.
no one expected it to come across and bring that level of comparison that ended up happening as a result of it. So, it included all the shapes and the races and the sizes and, the beauty that you come with yourself.
Mhm.
But then that comparison game started. And more so women than men in an outward fashion. I'm
Mhm.
not saying men don't experience it, but I don't necessarily know that I don't think it appears in maybe the same way
Yeah.
that it does to women.
Mhm.
And instead of like a concept of feeling accepted, it became like a counterintuitive need to look at all bodies under like a microscope.
Yeah.
And that need to constantly love our bodies no matter what is a really unrealistic goal if you think about it.
It
The
is.
goal to love yourself 100% of the time in the social media world that we have,
Yeah.
that's hella not happening.
Mm-mm.
That's not even happening if there was no social media.
Yeah.
You're going to walk by a mirror and be like, my hair's flat today.
Yeah. Yep. You're
What
gonna
can
have
I
those
do?
days.
Like it
Yeah.
was curly earlier, it's falling out. Whatever, it's okay. And so like I did an ebook earlier this year. I wrote an ebook and I talked about, body positivity and the counterbalance for it. And that recent adventure in Nashville, it really taught me how, or reminded me just how much that body neutrality component is not really woven in enough,
Yeah.
to be honest. Like it was brought to light in like 2012, 2015. And it's really the willingness to learn to appreciate your body and accept it for what it does, even if
Mm.
it does not appear the way you want it to in your mind's eye.
Amen.
In your mind's eye, it's
Mm.
supposed to be, hourglass
Yeah.
or, whatever your mind's
Yeah,
eye
whatever you
thinks.
want it to be.
But learning to accept your body and appreciate it, an emotionally and a physical standpoint, but neutrally.
Yeah.
Like that's literally just like that car analogy I had earlier. Yes, if you put fuel in your car, you rotate the tires, you wash it, you fuel it,
Yeah.
you oil change, all of those things, it's going to be efficient from point A to point B. And your body is very much the same of that. And you can just like the fact that it's a, Mazda or a Ford or a Volkswagen or a Toyota,
Mhm.
whatever it is that we drive,
Yeah.
if you look at it from like okay, there are, various levels
Mhm.
to the accessory packages that you can get,
Right.
or you can just appreciate that it's got four wheels and a tire and it keeps your family safe from point
Yeah.
A to point B, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I think that takes the comparison component of it. Yes, if you sat down and did your homework when you were going to purchase a new car, yeah, you're going to do comparison, on all the different things that you want in it.
Yeah.
But the at the end of the day, it takes you from point A to point B. And can you
Right.
just literally appreciate that component?
Mhm.
I didn't actually have an official diagnosis. It was kind of based on what I, have learned over the last, oh
Mhm.
gosh, really 8 months. Like
Right.
I didn't even know it was that so much until after I've been losing the weight and going,
Yeah.
still, what's going on?
Yeah.
Because it's, things come up at different levels. So, I would be curious to see how it's impacted, other people's lives. How is it, how do other people kind of work through that? Do they have help working through that? I know that in moments of self-correction, which we kind of talked about before we did the podcast,
Mhm.
I had I had a concept that I'd be like, oh, I just beat myself up about XYZ. And my girlfriend's like, you mean beat yourself down?
Yeah.
And it was like, and she gave me this visual. So I want to do this. So when you have those moments where you're like, here's you, and you're like, oh, I'm so silly. Oh, I forgot the keys. Oh, that could have been better.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm so whatever. You just disappeared out of your view,
Mhm.
right? So, and kind of mentally, you sort of, that's what happens when you have that conversation with yourself, that negative loop happening.
Yeah.
So now I use the phrase, it's pretty. A mentor taught me that. So it doesn't make a difference happening. I forgot the keys and locked the front door. I mean, granted, I have the key to get back in, but or
Mhm.
I, got to the grocery store but forgot all of the reusable bags, or what I got to the grocery store, bought all the things except for the one thing I really, really needed, and came home and I was like, "So it's pretty."
But I'm so
Because
pretty.
I found a way to like
Yeah.
remind me that I slipped up, but still bring in that kindness to myself, that
Mhm.
compassion of like, okay, I'm human. We're human beings. We are not human doings.
No,
Like that component of it. So it helps to
I love that.
redirect my brain to like a happier, healthier thought.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily know that everybody looks at it from that standpoint,
Mhm.
but I would challenge people to look at the appreciation they can have.
Yeah.
That level of appreciation, if you think about it, maybe you make a gratitude journal before the end of the day of all the things that you were thankful for, and then it gives you that good vibe overnight, or
Yeah.
you like, bummer, I didn't do all the things I wanted to do. All right, do a quick brain dump so that you have a to-do list that starts your day tomorrow.
Yeah.
What if we did that from a standpoint for your body? Like,
Mm.
hey, I have all the kids home today, and I still was able to do all the things I need to do for me, for work,
Yeah.
and feed them lunch and take them to the park and do whatever, so that at the end of the day, we're all exhausted, we're going to sleep good,
Mhm.
and we feel accomplished in a good, healthy way, not a burnt out,
Yeah.
like I don't want to do this again tomorrow way, like, so there is a level of appreciation to be had that not everybody can see, and because they're so focused on the number on the scale, or the size clothing or, so I challenge, but I'm super interested to see how the audience feels about this and whether they identify.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what the feedback is. Especially on an episode like this, when I do post on social medias, I'm definitely going to have like a call to action. Please write in, please comment, because I really want to hear people's thoughts on this. Because you have so many different, what is the word I'm looking for here? You word things so wonderfully to me. Like,
Thank you.
you're really pushing different points that like I have thought before or I've lived, but I'm not sure how exactly to articulate them. And you do it so well that I'm like, yes, you guys, please tell me what you think about this. I need to hear everybody's feedback. Yeah.
Well, so that's actually one of the ways that I'm able to help people. Because if you think about it, we've all had this thought at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't like the way that dress looks. All right, my thighs are too big, as women specifically.
Yeah.
Men also have it.
Yeah.
My tummy's too big. I don't like
Yeah.
my love handles. Men have it
Yeah.
too, so I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
going to take that away. Um, but I think that's one of the ways that I connect with clients the best
Mm-hmm.
is being able to have those relatable stories. My vulnerability, um, like I wasn't supposed to be that as a kid. I really wasn't. I didn't do great at it in my young years. The second I would stand up for myself, someone would be like, no. And I'd be
Don't do
like,
that.
okay, never mind. Now that I'm at a point where I'm like, my experience can be different than yours and
Yeah.
it's totally fine. I don't
Yeah.
need you to like you can share yours and we can both have the same,
Mm,
we both can have an opinion, a thought process, a
yeah.
feeling, and one does not have to be better or less than the other. It can just be. And I think having those relatable stories to
Mm-hmm.
people, I think that is one of the biggest things. And it makes my vulnerability a gift because if I'm able to share first, it sort of opens the floor for someone else to say, hey, I've been there, or I had that moment, or crap, it sucks, doesn't it? How did you get through it? Or, and that's actually, one of the reasons why I started this was because I didn't know that it could be different.
Yeah.
A and B, I also I didn't necessarily have the support. Like I spent a lot of time in cognitive behavioral therapy in my younger years, and
Mhm.
I dealt with all surfacey things. This is what's happening today. This is what made me mad. This is why I'm
Yeah.
upset. But I didn't get to any of the inner work. And
Mm,
so to know that the level of inner work that I've experienced and the result that's come from it,
mm,
I want other people to have that level of support that I didn't
yeah.
have, but I didn't necessarily know I needed that
Mm,
level of support
yeah.
or that we could work on the topic at that level. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
And so, and it doesn't happen until till you experience something and you're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, so relatable. And then you're like, oh, well, maybe this is why this or this. And I don't want anyone to go down a rabbit hole and be like, oh, well, this is why my life is this, and this is why my life is this.
Yeah.
We all have options, choices. And sometimes you don't know you can make a different choice until you've seen someone make a different choice. And you're
Yeah.
like, I mean, I didn't grow up in an I love you household.
No, yeah.
Not at all. When I love you came up when that like my brother was in Life Star, it was a tragic moment. And then all of a sudden it
Yeah.
was like, I love you during, like
Yeah.
but I like that component. I like that feeling. So
Yeah.
when I had my daughter, my girlfriend and she and I worked in an office and her kids would call when they got home from school and they'd be giving her attitude. She's like, I don't like you right now, but I love you.
Yeah.
You can say that to your children. She's like, "Yes, I'm thinking,
Mm.
well, but so as my daughter was raised, like we don't get off the phone now without an I love you.
Yeah. Yeah.
FaceTime, text, I mean, it's not so much text, but FaceTime or just,
Yeah. Regular
a
phone
phone
call.
call 90% of the time. It's not always, but 90% of the time. Um, and it's part of my love language,
Yeah.
so learning your love language for you
Yeah.
might be another topic I'm gonna take on pretty soon here. I might have a little mini masterclass on your own love language for you.
Oh, I love that. You gotta send me all the info.
Well, I just came up with it while we're talking, so has no love for it yet, so stay
When you
tuned.
put
But
it together.
I did. I was gonna say, like, I literally was like, "Ooh, hey,
Let
that's
me
a
do
really
that.
I love that idea."
I love that. Yeah, the reliability or relatability and vulnerability definitely are something that we as humans just absolutely love. But in wrapping it up, I want to give you an opportunity to kind of tag yourself and how people can connect with you and the things that you do.
Um, so my Facebook page is FAB Approach, and it's the same on Instagram. I am working on my website right now, so I will have the link for that soon. Like I have the link, but there's nothing on the page. So as soon as I have that, I will post it in there and then people can link.
Awesome.
I actually just came out with a journal in the beginning part of May. It is be fab. It's basically be fierce, be authentic, and be badass. And it's your guide to thriving during midlife change. Had I thought about it, I would have brought the copy right here, but I don't have it. It's on the dining room table right now. But it's available on Amazon for $15. It's $14.97. But I didn't do my Facebook Live yet, but it's coming today. I now have author copies. So if anybody wants signed author copies,
Yes.
I can sign them and ship them to you. And a little bit more about me, and we can put the link associated with this, but I have a landing page currently, and it is https checkya.com/fab approach, and it talks a little bit more about me, like the bio. I do one-on-one coaching. I am getting ready to do a group coaching event. It'll probably be 8 weeks. I haven't launched that yet, but it's coming soon. And it's literally to be able to work through what holds people back. And that journal that I just came out with is designed to kind of like be a little bit of a precursor to help you with
Nice.
it. So like if somebody wants to get a jump start, that's a great place to do. It's got lots of prompts and quotes. It's got some pages to sketch in if you have random notes. If you, sometimes ADHD brain is like, "Ooh, that's a big concept. I just got
Oh
to do
yeah.
it." Kind of. So I made it so that it's something that I would do, right?
Yeah,
Because
I love that.
it does not have to be something that has to be like, "Oh, I've got to do it in a whole afternoon." Take 10, 15
Yeah.
minutes a day, maybe with your cup of coffee or your wind down at the end of the day, and just write out, like do one prompt a day. There's a bunch of them in there.
Yeah.
And like I do somatic movement, but becoming the coach that I did, the instructor for cardio drumming last year, while the location I had didn't pan out long term, it's a great somatic movement, and it's getting your brain moving. I have a guided meditation, excuse me, the thought the track for it came in yesterday, so I could do the pre-approval for it. But I have like a 12-minute guided meditation that I'm about to unfold.
That's awesome.
And it literally has some very basic somatic components
Wow.
on whether you need it first thing in the morning, the end of the day, you're feeling really activated. And I can jump on a clarity call with somebody if they are interested in doing, like a 20-minute clarity call, and like what are they struggling with? What can I help them with? And the one thing that I want to say for sure is that sometimes people aren't ready.
Yeah.
Right. And the clarity call is really to determine if someone's ready to work with me, because if they're not and they really need therapy, I have lots of resources, referrals. I
Love
think that's
that.
one thing that's really great about our group.
Mhm.
I'm somebody who wants them to be ready to work with me at that level, but if they are struggling to function daily, that might be something way beyond my scope of practice, because I am not a therapist. I am
Yeah.
someone working with. I do have integrated energy therapy certification as well. And the trauma informed somatic cert that I have,
Mhm.
it literally holds space for the emotion that's stuck or the sensation that's coming up. It is not designed for you to relive the traumatic moment.
Yeah.
And that's what some, I think that makes a really big difference when people are selecting who to work with.
Yeah.
Um, being very clear that I am not a therapist. We are not going through that entire emotional moment.
Yeah.
Makes a big difference because for some people it's just too scary.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you clarify that and that you also have the resources to offer them if that's the path that they need to take. I think that's really important, not just ethical, but also extremely important. I think it's incredible that you have that.
I mean, and sometimes it's a team of people, right? Like I can
Yeah.
be in part of that mix,
Yeah,
but they might
absolutely.
need somebody in
Yeah.
the beginning side of it to get their daily life
Yeah.
functioning, and then I can be a support later on.
Yeah, because each component is very important and necessary in some cases. Um, awesome. I'm so excited. I will make sure that all of your links are in the show notes so that people can just click and find you. Um, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me today. I've been looking forward to this so much and excitement. It is literally my very first.
Ah,
So like
so happy I got
you
to be that.
you you got to be my yes, it's
Yes,
awesome.
I
It
love
is
it.
really
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank you. I love what you do. I love you. You know this. So I'm very, very
Me
excited that you
too.
got to come on.
And I
Thank
can't
you.
wait to hug you again soon, like
Yes,
physically hug you again soon.
soon. Thank you.
All right, take care. Thank